Hey there, Capricorn. This is the start of your next forecast, taking you from the new moon in Virgo on the 23rd of August right the way through to the full moon, which is a total lunar eclipse on the 7th of September, and that's in the sign of Pisces. Now, you might have already seen that I've posted a new moon in Virgo video. That's to detail from this new moon right the way through to the next new moon, the whole month, which includes eclipse season. But in this forecast, I'm going much deeper over the next 2 weeks for you to really give you a sense of what you might want to pay attention to. I mean, this I really see as being the gateway to the eclipse. I also see this is about you building your sacred vision for life. If you think of the energy of Virgo, it's all about, I would say, purity, sanctity, sacredness, simplicity, practicality. Things being very user-friendly, but things being very clean and hygienic. There's a real strong hygiene ethic with Virgos in terms of if things aren't working out for them, they take practical action, and they always seem to have it sorted. You know, they've got this amazing way of making everything seem good. And so I'm going to be looking at where these new moons are showing up in your charts. And, you know, from the Pisces side, you know, visioning is something that is a very strong energy with Pisces. They're so ethereal, you know, sort of in this reality and also in a slightly different reality. And so the two of these energies mixing together, the sacredness and the vision, that's what I see as an energy that you get to play with over the next 2 weeks in your own Capricorn way. Now, if you're new to this channel, my name's Louisa Tanner-Munson. Hello and welcome to Feel Good Astrology. My aim here is to break the planetary weather down into something that's more understandable. I'm an intuitive astrologer, and when I deliver, I'm delivering as if I'm talking to you, like literally you right now. To the best of my ability, I really like to sort of create a sense of intimacy. So anyway, let's get cracking. Now, before I go any further, I always like to talk about 3 big questions that are coming up, you know, that I really recognize as being maybe emotional questions, questions that can really set the tone. And over this next 2 weeks, I really see that we've got the purification energy right at the start with the new moon. We've got the inspiration at the time of the full moon, the total lunar eclipse. And in between, we've got this breakthrough energy that I would say starting around the 31st of August to the 1st of September. And so I've got 3 questions that really emphasize what I see you going through. And I'm going to be using these questions throughout the reading and referring to them right at the end. So hopefully at the end of this, you'll have not necessarily a plan of action, but some very sort of specific intuitive astrological advice that could help you interpret what's going on. So the first part, where in my life am I idealizing or polishing the surface instead of healing the root? Now, I said that very specifically because the Virgo energy definitely gets things looking great on the outside. You know, when if you meet a Virgoan, you know, they're neat, they're tidy, they're usually very attractive and wearing great quality things. You know, the Virgoan energy is calm and serene on the outside. They've got that, you know, very well polished look. But I'm really interested in the healing, you know, right underneath that, because this purification energy with this new moon is really quite lively. It's in a square to Uranus. It's quite surprising. It wants to act fast and deep. You know, it's not wanting to just be superficial. It's wanting to go as deep as possible. So that's the first thing. You know, what are you trying to polish up and start in your life with this new moon, and how can you go deeper with it? The next one would be around the breakthrough stage, when we've got Mercury in a trine to Chiron. And Chiron is all about our insecurities and where we feel vulnerable. And Mercury, I think, is us being able to listen to our bodies, tune in and say, oh my God, I didn't realize I was vulnerable about that. And so I really think what old wounds are going to flare up, or may flare up. Also around that time, Saturn is retrograding back into Pisces. You know, he's looking to create stability in quite an amorphous sign, and quite a spiritual sign. So what old wounds may flare up? What might you realize in terms of your security is lacking? And how can I respond with compassion rather than compulsion? You know, really with compassion, I'm trying to sort of pace us towards the eventual eclipse in the sign of Pisces that we're coming to, and compassion is definitely one of their mottos. And so, yeah, what old wounds may flare up, and how can I deal with them with compassion? And then finally, at the time of the total lunar eclipse, I'm asking, how can I turn this flood of emotions into inspiration instead of overwhelm? You may well have found that around the time of the full moon that you feel overwhelmed, you feel tired, ratty. It feels like everything's on top of you, that like things are flying at you from all directions, and it just feels a little bit untenable. You don't know what to deal with first. And that's quite a common thing, especially with a water sign full moon, let alone Pisces, which is just so unguarded and so unboundaried. And it's not just a full moon, it's an eclipse. So it's super strong. And so I'm going to be looking at your chart from the perspective of how can you direct the incoming flood of energy into something that's going to help you be inspired about, so that you're using it in a way that's going to lift you up. And this is my sentence of this forecast, really. Clear the vessel, that's a purification. Clear the vessel, let the cracks appear, and then be filled with divine waters. Now, the realist in me knows that we would need to fill those cracks in. So I'm imagining a divine glue bit happening in between. But yeah, we're clearing out your vessel, and that could be your body, your mind-body system, your heart. It could be your car, your home, whatever it is. But you're clearing something. Then when it's cleared, you get to see what is the structure like of this vessel. You know, have I got any cracks? Have I got any, like, have things worn out? And then, you know, it's about like filling it in. And then once you've got your vessel all beautiful and pristine, we're flooding it with divine waters and this inspiration. And so that's how I see this energy going. And so what I want to do now is apply it to you as a Capricorn, because obviously that's going to really make a difference. Now, before I do it, I just want to say a quick thank you to everybody who has supported me historically, and also that is supporting me right now. I've got people donate, and I've also got 2 memberships. And so I really thank everyone that is helping me to do what I love to do, because that's what you're doing. It's really a massive help to me. So thank you. But anyway, back to you. So yeah, this is the birth chart of the new moon in Virgo. And this is the chart for the full moon in Pisces. You can see that the moon has gone from this new moon position in Virgo in your 9th house, right the way through to the 3rd house down here, with this total lunar eclipse in Pisces. But what I first of all just want to clear before I really get going is this whole forecast is based on a whole sign traditional Western model of astrology. And so what that means is I've put one sign in every single house, like one full sign. And so this is the model I'm using. This is a very popular model that lots of people are using right now. But if, like me, you prefer to use Placidus or a different charting system, you'll probably notice that you've got both Capricorn and some Aquarius in your first house. Basically, whatever signs you have in your first house, it's also worth checking out that sign too, because the Capricorn forecast is more likely to work around the time of your new moon, but towards the time when you're talking about the full moon, that might relate more to the Aquarian side. So I would listen to both if I was in your shoes, but that's just a little heads up. If you use a whole sign charting methodology, then this will probably just be perfect for you. So anyway, they're the 2 charts that I'm going to be looking at, or that I'm looking at right now. And you'll see that, you know, the 9th house here is really, really important. And then the 3rd house here is very important too. So this is where the first eclipse is going to be. And then the following eclipse will be in the 9th house on the 21st of September. That will be captured in the next series of forecasts that I run. And so what's really clear right now, Capricorn, from your perspective, is the 3rd house and the 9th house are a huge area of your life that's been tweaked and worked on. This is where the nodes are working through right now. And the North Node is working through your 3rd house. Now, that's really speaking of community. It's really talking about how you get that sense of belonging, how you are in a sense of communion with your siblings, your old school friends, your cousins, you know, that kind of usual narrative. You know, what do your early beginnings, like how are they relevant in your life right now? And also, what are you doing in your local marketplace, or who are you being in your local community? There's a lot about that. So I really see that the third house is a place of busyness and a lot of learning. You know, this is where we go to school in our early years. This is where we're learning how the world works. And so in many respects right now, you are relearning how the world works with the North Node in this part of your chart. And the South Node is really showing what's kind of easy for you. And, you know, with the Sun and Mercury's in his own sign, in the sign of Virgo, right at the top of the chart, you know, there is this sense of just how easy it is for you to be more foreign, more remote, more attracted to things outside of your community. So if I piece these together, you know, this new moon here is really showing that there's a renewed interest in expanding your vision and expanding your sense of what captures your interest. Maybe you're realizing that for your work and for how you live your life, that you need to learn some new things, or that you want to sort of broaden your concept of maybe spirituality and philosophy and religion. Politics might come up as well. The ninth house is also a place where we might really want to write and teach. So I really see it as higher learning, higher communication. It's just higher and further afield. You know, if this is local, this is foreign. If this is what is known, this is representing what is unknown. And if this is what you are sharing and teaching at a local level, this is what you're sharing and broadcasting out to the masses. And so this is almost like a higher harmonic of this house, but it's not, because both energies are important in our life. You know, we always need something different. We always need something familiar. But right now, with the new moon in Virgo happening here, and then the next one will also be here in the ninth house, there's definitely a feeling of novelty, of wanting to do something bigger and further away, to explore, to be quite adventurous, maybe to learn something really quite big and substantial. Uranus making this very tight square to the new moon is almost making it a necessity. And maybe there's something going on in your day-to-day life that is a little bit shocking, and it's coming in and it's like, oh my God, I didn't see that coming. And to resolve whatever it is, you need to think outside of the box and to go much bigger. So to me, this is really showing that there is this need to start learning something and broadening your horizon in this huge way. Now, it just so happens that although there's this massive sort of emphasis on creating, writing, broadcasting, and adventuring out into the unknown, the next, or the first eclipse of this season is going to be down here, really bringing us back into what we do know. And this is also where the North Node is. You know, the North Node is showing us what we need to work on. And so at some level, even though your desire is to be anywhere but here, it's like, I want to be out here, and you're really in your mind and really like visioning everything, and you've got all the normal just kind of behind you. Like, this is where you're looking out into this great big vision. You're still being tasked with this North Node to be able to integrate it. So to me, you're like a big explorer at the moment, going to the other side of the world to discover the potato and then bring it back home. Not necessarily the potato, it could be anything, but wherever you're going right now, it is going to come back into land at some point. And it might not come back into land around the time of the eclipse. I suspect it's going to be much later on. You know, the North Node is going to be in this part of your chart until July of 2026. So you're only, you know, maybe a third of the way through, just over a third of the way through this North Node in Pisces. And so, yeah, I think you're starting something quite broadly, feeling a really strong sort of compulsion to be very much out there and fascinated by all things different. So you could even take a foreign trip and be very inspired by that. You could be signing up for some kind of learning right now that's going to be big. I mean, a retreat would be a perfect placement for this particular new moon and new moon. They're like two bookends either side of your experience. And what I would say is, around the time of this lunar eclipse, which is coming up on the 7th, you might want to be aware of the distraction putting you off the course. So I see that this new moon in Virgo is really setting you on a new course, quite a significant course that is taking you out of your usual location, your usual narrative, and almost putting a barrier between what you would say is your community and where you belong and how you're feeling right now. It's taking you slightly out of there. And that's likely to bring up some emotions from the people that maybe feel like they've been left behind. But it's not forever. This is just an exploration. This is like you reconnecting to something that's felt good. And maybe you've taken a trip before, maybe something similar to this has happened before. In particular, like 18 years ago, you'd have been in the same position 18, 19 years ago. The nodes would have been in these positions. But right now, it's like you have to step outside of your village. And around the time of this full moon, it's important to be aware that the village might pull you back. You may well find that things really hot up at home, so I don't know what your actual community is like, obviously, but the full moon, this lunar eclipse, is likely to create, I don't want to say hysteria, but it's likely to definitely raise the temperature of emotions around the people that you know, the community that you're living in. And maybe your viewpoints feel very contra to the viewpoints of the people that you know and have felt part of. And that's one of the paradoxes with this particular 3rd and 9th house split. Now, I do want to say, out of all the different polarities that you can explore, I would say the 3rd and the 9th is quite an exciting one. It doesn't have to be desperate or difficult. It can be deeply, deeply inspiring. So, I think there are much worse places or much more exciting and devastating and changing places to have this occur. This is a pretty big time for you. So during this 2 weeks then, from this new start feeling that you're getting, and with this new start, to do something foreign and far away and with a bigger context, the whole idea here is purification. So it's like, how can I purify myself? How can I clean up my understanding of the world or spirituality? There's this feeling of making things good. It's kind of sacred. So to me, it really fits with like a sacred study of something, or a retreat is a perfect use of that. Or for instance, journaling your experience in a cleansing and cleaning way. To me, this is you stepping outside of your life so that you can look back at your life with a new pair of eyes and think, oh my goodness, that's really busy there. Oh my God, that doesn't look very pure. So to me, this is, you're heading on a journey that's going to give you a sense of spiritual clarity. And I love that. And along the way, there's going to be some big markers. And I would say between the 25th and the 1st, there's some big changing times. So for instance, on the 25th, Venus is going to go into the sign of Leo. Now, she's going to definitely warm things up. I mean, it's been quite great, actually, having Jupiter and Venus going through your 7th house. I mean, this is one of the luckiest placements to have both Jupiter and Venus, really assuring that your relationships with your loved ones are really great and really connected. There's this feeling of peacefulness between you. But when Venus goes into the sign of Leo, she's bringing warmth and her spicy character, her sort of playful character into all of those odd spaces, where you might have had ups and downs, where you might have felt judged, where you might have blocked yourself from the next move. Sometimes we intuit what our next move is going to be, but we don't have the guts to step out. I know it's funny saying that to somebody with a Capricorn energy like you do, but like stepping out beyond, like just crossing out of the threshold of we're safe and going to the next level. And so Venus, I think, is going to be playfully pushing you forwards a little bit. So I see that as being quite helpful. And in particular, on the 26th and 27th, there's some huge energies. She's working beautifully with Saturn, which is your ruling planet, and also Neptune. She's also working beautifully with Uranus. And so this is affecting the home, your method of work, and also your money. And so her playfully moving up, to me, is an indication that there's something you need to change in your life that will have a knock-on effect on your money, your home, and how you organize your life. And maybe this study, or maybe this cleansing lens that you're putting over your life is the thing that's going to step up all these different areas. Suffice to say, it's all go. So that's pretty important. The 26th is a fantastic day, in particular if you're like applying for something or if you're wanting something to work. Things are going to go very, very, very fast. And then throughout this time, we're really sort of working with this energy. Venus in opposition to Pluto is possibly a time when you might feel a little coveted, or you might feel a little caught in your money games with a partner. But around the 31st, we've got Mercury in an exact trine with Chiron. Now, this is interesting because Chiron's been in the 4th, and Mercury will be up here by that moment in the 8th. The 4th and the 8th are very private houses, to do with the home, and also to do with your reputation at home and your experience of the other family members, and also how you manage your money. And so it can absolutely touch on some very sensitive bits of information. And then the very next day, Saturn, your ruling planet, is going into Pisces. These two, I think, are the breaking point. This is where, if you've been taking this sort of cleansing approach and looking at your life and thinking, okay, I need to kind of rid myself of this. This is how I want to move. By the time you get to halfway through, like a week later, you'll find that you're noticing where you've got stresses and breaks and cracks in your vessel or in your life, or whatever it is you're applying this cleaning to, this perfection to. And so, this is prompting a deep dive. This is prompting you to do some extra work. And Saturn going backwards into the place of the community, which incidentally is exactly where where the total lunar eclipse and the full moon in Pisces is occurring. There's something important to clear up for yourself within the community. Now, if you're interested in knowing more about Saturn in Pisces from your perspective, I've done a video about it, which I'll be releasing around about the 28th, 29th. But if you want to see it early, then it's lined up right at the end of this video. So when you come to the end and you see the end screen, just click on play and it will take you straight there, so you can get a little preview of that. But yeah, Saturn coming back here is really bringing you back into the community. And maybe that's where the cracks exist for you in your life. Maybe what you're trying to create is great, but it's going to stretch your connections with the local community. And so as we're coming around to this full moon in Pisces, what I really notice is that you're absolutely aware of where you belong, but you're also aware of the costs of where you belong and how you're doing it. And so let me go to these questions now, because this is what I think would be more helpful. This is where I'm going to end. Like, how can I turn the flood of emotions into inspiration rather than overwhelm? So first of all, where in my life am I idealizing or polishing the surface instead of healing the root? I think that is actually that you've had some great experiences when you've stepped outside of your narrative box. I think you've had some great experiences when you've been away, when you've been out of your localized narrative that you grew up with, like your set of morals and like the codes that you grew up with. You felt kind of relieved when you've moved beyond them. Maybe you went to university, or maybe you took a gap year or went and lived somewhere else. To me, there's a feeling that when you've moved beyond, there's been a relief, there's been an easing. And so I think in terms of the first question, where in my life am I idealizing the surface instead of healing the root? I actually think this whole 2 weeks is showing you that you've glamorized the getting out at the expense of healing where you come from. And it's not to say that everything where you become from is going to change to match your vibration, but it's very easy to just say, oh yeah, that's not me, and just move on, rather than appreciating why it's not you. And to me, this is where the cracks are coming in. The old wounds that might flare up, I think it's not that you're where you were born or where you belong. It's not that they're at fault at all. And it's not that you've got the answer by going away. You going away, or you studying deeper, or you exploring the world more is, I think, A, a great thing to do, but B, I think it's a strategy to help you forget how maybe lost or misunderstood you feel within your own home environment. And so what I think, to be able to deal with these old wounds compassionately is to recognize that no one's at fault. Nobody is trying to put anything on you necessarily. Not that you're already putting on yourself. And so I think if you can just see that we're all doing our best in the best way we can, and to acknowledge that maybe you do have different needs and that's okay, and not make other people wrong to feel okay about getting different needs. It's okay to just say, I'll do me and you do you. So I think it's something like that that's cropping up. But to me, it really feels like something from the past is holding you back from moving into the future, but maybe you've idealized what the future represents. And I suspect that if you do that, your future destination will become the next place that you try to escape from for the similar reason. So the thing to do is find out, well, where did it go wrong first time? Where did I make an incorrect assumption? And how can I just go back with compassion? I think if you can see how that pattern has emerged, you'll have a lot more compassion for yourself, because, you know, we deal with things in the best way we can, and we create new structures and strategies for ourselves based on the knowledge we had at the time. But usually that was when we were a child. I mean, I remember at the age of 5, packing my bag. And I think I had a hairbrush and a toothbrush in a little rucksack. And I managed to leave the front door and walk down the road. And like my mum didn't know. I walked a couple of streets away, and then one of my mum's friends saw me and kind of put her arm around me and said, oh, let's walk home, let's get you back home. And that was my first attempt of walking away. But, you know, as a 5-year-old, I had no idea what I was doing. I just felt this dis-ease in the moment and decided, that's it, I'm off. I'll find my own way, thank you. Because I didn't have the skills to be able to resolve what was going on. And I don't know that I do now, like 45 years later. But what I do know is I have a much better chance of making it work. And it's the same for you as well. So then how can I turn the flood of emotions into inspiration rather than overwhelm? Well, I actually think when you realize just how much emotion is coming up around your community, and possibly how many people really love and need you or respect you, or just how much creativity will come out of you when you can accept that you might have been distancing yourself from what you know and glamorizing the things that you don't know. I think when these things lift, there will be a huge relief. And in that relief is a lot of creative energy. I mean, it could materialize as tears and a huge breakdown. And that's also very, very cleansing. And you may well find that the people around you are hypersensitive, because wherever this full moon shows up, it shows the reaction of the people around you for sure. But you might find that once you start letting go of the mind frames that have got you locked in these little internal psychological battles, that you feel free and there's so much more energy available to you because you're not tied up in knots, just considering one action. So what occurs to me is you'll have more energy and you'll be able to think, okay, well, how can I learn about the world in such a way that I can bring it home, that I can bring my potato home, that I can live with my knowledge in the community that I actually do like. I don't know how it works exactly, but there's some of the clues, some of the main themes. So I hope that was helpful for you in understanding these, main themes over this next couple of weeks. Remember, this is an eclipse season and the eclipses are moving us. They are showing us how we're evolving. And so part of your evolution is to make friends with where you come from. It's to make friends with your roots in a deeper and more profound way. Deeper and profound, same thing, sorry. But anyway, if you've liked the way I do these forecasts and the feeling that it creates, then you might find my membership helpful. That's the place where I go even deeper, and I do Monday to Friday forecasts, love and money forecasts for all 12 signs twice a month. It's also a place where there's a bit of a community vibe, and in the higher level membership, there's sessions where we all learn together. So it's pretty good. And if you would like to go even deeper and actually take a look at your personal birth chart, then just invite me to work with you. All of my details are online. They're on the channel page. They're also in the details underneath each video. But my diary's online. All you need to do is book in and invite me to work with you. And I'd love to work with you, truly. So I'm going to leave that there. Remember, if you do want to know more about Saturn going back into Pisces from your perspective, just keep watching. But anyway, lots of love. Bye for now.